Hello all and welcome to the channel. My name is Craig and today I am taking a closer look at Formidable Farm. Now this one is a 1 to 4 player game. Yes, there's a solo play as well, which I've had a couple of goes at, and it goes all the way up to 4, so you've got a bit of a nice player range. Now this one's going to be on the lower complexity and it's going to take anywhere up to sort of 45 minutes, I would say, so it's a bit more of a thinky filler game. Now what are you trying to do? Well, you're trying to meet the desires of this local market. They've got trade cards here that they're looking to have fulfilled, so you want these resources at the top, and if you want you can take the benefit at the bottom, which most likely you will, because then you can try and use those goods or whatever synergy it is to complete another trade card. And you've also got the option to go and get supplies from this supply board here, and you can do these in different order on your turn. You'll also have coins here which are basically completed trade cards, so once you complete one you kind of turn it over and it's got a coin on it, and you can spend those to do rule breakers as they're known as, and those are depicted nicely on this little token here. So you can see you can spend X amount of cards to do some rule breakers, and I'll go through those shortly. So the key here is not about, and it's peculiar, most games you're trying to acquire more things, get more resources. In this one you're actually trying to get through this deck of 20 cards in this case for 2 players, and it differs depending on how many players. You're racing to get through this and complete all your trade cards. First person to do it wins. If there's a tie, it comes down to how many cards you've got left and what icons are on them, and they score up certain values. So how are you going to do all that then? So on you go, first player chooses one of these locations, and you don't have to do this right away. You might have some resources to complete something else. So let's just say we go and acquire a pig. Now I haven't even looked at what cards I need. So what can I do with this pig? I can complete this card here. Spend the pig, complete this, and that is going to get me 2 cucumbers. You got cucumbers, wheat, pigs, sheep and tomatoes. So I now turn this upside down, and that is worth a coin, which is only useful for making your engine more efficient and completing these cards here. So I'm going to take, I completed that, I get 2 cucumbers. Now I can complete up to 3 trade cards on my turn. Maybe I want to do a trade card first and then go and get something from the supply, or maybe I want to do a rule breaker. So for now that's pretty much all I can do. You can complete these as well, so maybe I had the resources to go and do one of those, but remember those can be great for giving you the benefits at the bottom, but they're not cycling through this deck, and that's what you need. You need to get through these trade cards here. Next player goes and they're like, right, where am I going to go? I really want a pig, and they can do that, but it's going to be a rule breaker. You have a look on here. If you want to go where someone else is, it's X, which is the number of tokens already there, is the number of cards you have to spend. So in this case, yellow would have to spend 1 card from their supply and put it back in a discard somewhere, and they can then trigger that action. Otherwise, they're going to have to go somewhere else. So where can you go? You can go here to get a card out from your deck here, which is great. You're getting them out, you can visibly see what you need and try and work towards completing them. You get pigs, sheep and all the other supplies there as well in different quantities. So some are worth more. The pigs and the sheep are more value. They can do generally more things. So then it comes back to me, and if I, for example, did have the resources to go and complete one of these, let's say I had a sheep and a resource of any choice. I pay them to supply, I take this card. I, in this case, can get a card, and I can't even remember what that is. So I should add that there is a little bit of getting used to the symbology, and on the back of the rules, it's all depicted here. So let me just test this one. +1, here we go, draw 1 trade card and place it face down as fulfilled. Excellent. So I get to draw one of these trade cards and put it in this pile here, which might be able to get rid of a card I didn't necessarily want. So once you get used to the symbology, it's not too bad after that. I'm still, I'm only giving you an overview today because I've only played it a few times. I've tried it solo a couple of times and 2 player. I'm buzzed to try this with 3 and 4. So where are we? So I have completed one of these. Now only at the end of the round will these get replenished. So where I've gone and completed one of those, hypothetically, I'll go here, get 3 grain, or 3 wheat should I say, and can I do anything else? I've got not enough, well I have got 3 coins, so what am I going to do with these 3 coins? I'm going to spend these, put them in a discard and I'm going to draw another card out. Maybe I was hoping to have something that I could use wheat or cucumber. So in terms of just summarising what these ground rule breakers are, you can spend 2 cards to activate the same location. So you noticed I was going to different spots. If you're happy with the wheat in this case and you want to trigger again, that's fine. You're just going to have to spend 2 coins to do it. You can spend 3 coins to get a card out from the top of your deck. Super. You can spend 3 coins to get a resource of your choice. There's only one mind. You don't go and trigger a new spot, just one, which is great. And you can spend, as I already said, you can go on an opponent's location. Now, bear in mind, if you're playing a 4-player game and all 3 of you on that, well, you're having to pay 3 cards to go on top. So that's another option. So consider those as you're determining, which ones am I going to complete. So eventually you're going to have, hopefully, you don't really want a stack of these coins. You want to be utilizing them as you go along. And eventually, you've maybe got your last 3 out here, your deck's depleted, you've completed these ones, and that will trigger the end of the game. Okay, so what are my brief thoughts on this? It is a nice game, and it's one that's keeping me intrigued to want to play more. I played 2 players, and it did take a little while trying to figure out, well, what does that exactly mean? And there are various intricacies with the angle of the card means, it's from your completed trade cards, and what certain arrows mean. I think one of the cards was a bit peculiar in terms of the adjacency bonuses. If I can locate one, there's none in there. So let me give you an example. Oh, where's it hiding? It's basically suggesting this one here. So you will get to trigger one of these supplies where you are. Sometimes that's a little arrow, which means it's the player to the next of you. Sometimes it's an arrow that goes across, so it means you can use the supply opposite you. Sometimes it's got 2 arrows either side and you can pick one of the adjacent spots. So that takes a bit of getting used to, but it was nice. And it was a game I actually, for a change, wanted to try solo, and it works. You basically get 30 cards and you have a time clock. So for example, this moves 1 at the end of your round and it keeps going round, and that triggers 6 rounds, and you get rid of one of these tokens, and you basically got 18 rounds to cycle through these 30 cards and complete them. And it plays out pretty much the same as everything else. You've got to mark it and you're just trying to be uber efficient. So I like the solo, but I do think this game is probably going to play best at that 3-4 player count with just more competitiveness here. That spending of your coins and, I need to really go on that space to make this work, and the fluidity of these cards chopping and changing, because it is an interesting aspect having this market. Naturally, you're thinking, yes, I've completed that one, and you kind of forget this is your main aim, is trying to complete these however many cards are there. And there's interesting combos if you get to take 5 and you mix which ones go on top and the bottom. So I haven't quite figured out the strengths of some of these synergies here and the transitions of one thing to another. And that takes probably a lot of games to really get to grips with that. And you just have to play what's out there and speed through it to win. But yet, first impressions are really positive. It's not game of the year, but as a filler, as something that you can just, relatively teach quite quickly. And as long as someone knows what all the icons mean and help everyone out, you're going to have a good time. There we go, Formidable Farm.